Hello, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us today at Harmony Academy's webinar, The Art of Gratitude. Got a lot of folks hopping on, so I'm giving while you are taking a moment to get into the webinar and situated. I'll take a moment to introduce myself. Again, hello and welcome. My name is Marie Weller, and I am a professional learning specialist here at Harmony. I am thrilled to be the moderator for today's webinar on the art of gratitude, which, like I mentioned before, is brought to you by Harmony Academy at National University. Every day is a great day for gratitude, right? But November is the month during which many of us are a bit more intentional about giving thanks. So today's topic is very timely. So we host these webinars to bring together thought leaders and educators so that they can share best teaching practices and tools to support social emotional learning. These presentations are the opinions and content of our guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony. And I also want to make sure you know that you and all registrants will receive a copy of the recording to watch. Feel free to share that with your colleagues and be on the lookout for that in your email. So here's what we've got planned for today. We are going to explore the research behind gratitude and the impact of gratitude when woven throughout our daily lives. We're going to discover key strategies for modeling and teaching gratitude with students in kindergarten through 8th grade. And then we're going to hear some inspiring examples of how educators have shared their best practices to support others. So it's poll time. So I've got a question to get things going here. And what I'd like to know from you is, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about gratitude in this moment? Here and now, what comes to mind? And Amanda, I am going to have you get that poll going. So we've got a couple of different responses for you to choose from. Some of you might be grateful for your friends, your family, your good health. Maybe you're grateful for a person who helped you out recently. Are you grateful for the upcoming Thanksgiving feast? I know for me, Thanksgiving is the one day of the year where my extended family all gathers in one room. As my kids become adults and move on to other places in the country, it's rare for everybody to gather in one space. So are you grateful for family and friends and good health? Maybe you're thankful for that feast that is going to be coming up next week. Maybe some of you will be thankful for joining today's webinar. We'll give you just a couple more seconds. And all right, so I see the results are in. It looks like the majority of you are grateful for your family, your friends, and your good health. And that is absolutely something, those are all really important things to be grateful for. All right, well, let's move along here. And I would like to introduce our inspiring group of people, educators, who are going to be sharing with us today. We have our presenter, Lainie Rowell, who is a best-selling author, an award-winning educator, and a TEDx speaker. Lainie comes to us with more than 25 years of experience in education. She has taught elementary, secondary education, as well as being part of higher ed. Lainie is joined by panelist Claudine James. Claudine is a national board certified teacher who teaches 8th grade English in Central Arkansas. She's dubbed social media's favorite English teacher. She uses her language skills to teach grammar lessons to her over 5.7 million followers on TikTok, which is like mind-blowing to me, and 155,000 subscribers on YouTube. And then we also are joined by Tom Whisinnand, who is also known as Mr. Whiz by his students. Tom teaches 4th grade in Nebraska, where he first started using Harmony back in 2018. So he's been with Harmony for quite a while, and he helped bring our curriculum to his district and share it district-wide. And in addition to his teaching, Tom hosts a podcast called What the World Needs Now, which features educators making a difference every day. So I'm so excited about hearing what these folks are going to be sharing with us today, and I'm sure that you are excited about this too. So I want to get things rolling, and I think we're going to go ahead and start off with a quick connection card. So quick connection cards are part of our everyday practices at Harmony. It's a way to get to know each other a little bit better. So let's take a minute to get to know our presenter and panelists a bit more. So if you would all think for a moment and then share your answer to the question, what is your favorite time of day and why? Or if we put this in the spirit of gratitude, which part of the day are you most grateful for? Who would like to start? All right, Claudine, what do you say?
My favorite part of the day is the morning. I'm not typically a morning person, but one time a student told me that having me first period was the reason they came to school, because they could count on seeing my smiling face, and then they knew no matter what happened throughout the day that it was going to be okay.
Wow, that is something to be grateful for, right? Awesome. Okay.
I'll go next if that's okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, perfect.
Yes, I am not a morning person, but I do like mornings. But really, for me, it's probably the evening rituals with my kids. So we as a family get together. We share things that are going well in our life that we're grateful for. We read together, and that's just one of my favorite things. My husband and I take turns. We spend quality time with kids individually, and then we swap. And so that's like another great part of my day, and it also helps me start the day really well. So thank you.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And again, like I said, those moments don't last forever. So being grateful for them while you've got them. That's awesome. Tom, do you have an answer to our question? What's your favorite part of the day?
I love mornings. I love to jump up in the morning. I love to see the sun come up when it's not cloudy outside. I love to get my mindset right for the day, kind of plan out what could happen, different possibilities, and start the day off right.
Great. You say that, it reminds me, my husband pops out of bed like SpongeBob SquarePants saying, "This is going to be the best day ever." So yeah, I love that. I also am I think that I'm probably more of a morning person. I like to get up, kind of like to ease into my day. I like the quiet in the morning. That first hour of just, being grateful for another day, and just being able to have a little bit of quiet time to to set my intention for the day. So, well, thank you for sharing for each of you for sharing. And I think we're going to kind of move things right along here. And I'm going to pass things over to Lainie so that she can talk a little bit more about what we came together to discuss. Let's talk about the art of gratitude. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share.
Perfect. I'm going to share my slides real fast. Thank you so much for that welcome. And I love the welcoming inclusion activity. That's lovely. All right. So I'm going to go and just start with a thank you. This would seem on brand, but I genuinely do thank you for your time. Thank you for being educators. Thank you for all you do personally, professionally. Like, I'm just so grateful that you spent this time with us. And I just want to get to, like, I'm so excited to share. I'm just going to keep moving on here. Well, one of the things that I want to think about is, and I encourage you to join me in this, is that these are invitations. So I'm going to be asking you to think about some things, participate in some things. It's all invitations. So I invite you to join me in the kitchen. And I love in kitchens, especially if you've ever seen any cooking shows or professional kitchens, they like talk to each other and then they say heard. And it's just a way of kind of like acknowledging, yes, I got you. And so if you're thinking like, if I say something, like maybe I say, I love Dr. Eliza Pressman says, all feelings are welcome, all behaviors are not. Heard. If it's heard, you can put it in the questions. You can say it out loud. Maybe if no one's around you, I don't know, it might be a little weird if you just start shouting heard when there's people around you. But I would just love to have you be thinking about what are these things that resonate with you. And then also, again, these are invitations. So I'm going to take you through a couple of practices. If it's for you, great. If it's not, no problem. And then I'd also like you to be open to rethinking what you know about gratitude. And maybe you already know a lot about gratitude, but I dove into the research years ago and some things surprised me. And so maybe something will surprise you too. Okay, take a step back and just think about, how do you feel about gratitude? You know, what is your general thought about gratitude? Now, you may have opted into this session, so maybe you're not someone who would just be like, meh, gratitude's okay. I have yet to have anyone say to me like gratitude sucks, but you know, some people don't necessarily see what I see in gratitude. So maybe that's you or someone you know, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes I come across people and I'm like, what does gratitude mean to you? And they're just like, I'm here for it. This is like so critical. This is so important to my happiness, to my relationships, to my performance. Like, this is a critical part of my life. And then sometimes there's people in the room where it doesn't really matter how they feel about gratitude. It's just not today. And that's totally fine too. So however you came to be with us today, whatever state you're in, totally fine. And again, I just hope maybe there'll be some new things for you. I want to level up on the definition of gratitude from the social scientists, in particular one, Dr. Robert Emmons, who is the world's leading science of gratitude expert. It's a little interesting. The science of gratitude's only been around for about 2.5 decades. So in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty new to scientifically study this gratitude. And what they have decided on as a definition, if you will, is that it's really two parts. It's acknowledging the good in one's life and recognizing the source of this goodness often lies outside of ourselves. Now, that does not mean we have to be self-effacing, that we don't take credit when we do hard work. It's just acknowledging that there are things and people who come to us, and that's great. And so that's gratitude, two parts. There's good things, and sometimes it's other people bringing it to me. As I'm talking about what gratitude is, let's talk about gratitude. It isn't good vibes only. And, you know, I said earlier, Dr. Eliza Pressman says all feelings are welcome, all behaviors are not. And so all feelings are welcome. We don't really want to say good vibes only, because that implies that people aren't entitled to their feelings, and they are. It's not about toxic positivity. We would love good vibes if it's right for us right then. And so I just want to stress, it's not about toxic positivity. It's also not about being a doormat. Thank you for treating me like garbage. No, we do have to have our boundaries. What is and isn't acceptable, we have to communicate that to people. Now I'm going to invite you to take a step back and notice like a kid. And I don't know if you've seen this one. I think it might be considered viral, but I love this kid noticing. And so take a look at this. him so much. The first step in gratitude is to notice. I'd like you to embrace your inner 3-year-old, as Neil Pasricha would say. And I'm going to invite you to spend 20 seconds writing down amazing things that happen at work. Now, you can use paper, you can use your phone and the Notes app, you can type it into a Word doc or a Google Doc or whatever you want. The science is very clear that you will get more benefits by actually typing it or handwriting it versus just thinking it. Something about putting it into that concrete language and committing it down like that just has a bigger impact. So 20 seconds, and I gave you some examples. Everyone nods at what you're saying. Someone fixes the copier, leftover treats in the lounge. So 20 seconds, what are some really specific things that bring you joy at work? All right. If you ever want to reach out to me, I'll make sure you have a way to contact me at the end and you can share that with me. Now I want to go on to like the rest of my time before we get to hear from the other amazing educators. Just want to share 3 things I've learned about gratitude, 2 barriers to well-being and flourishing, and 1 way to boost your happiness chemicals. Now, the 3 things I've learned about gratitude that are most pertinent to this group, 1 is it improves well-being. And that's a big deal because it's not just our physical health, it's our mental health. And then also it nurtures our relationships. And then this is the one that surprised me probably the most, that it activates learning. When you're in a state of gratitude, your brain gets flooded with dopamine and serotonin. Those are the 2 happiness chemicals most associated with gratitude. And when that happens, it is activating the brain. You are in a state to learn because all those learning centers have been turned on. Let's talk a little bit about one of those barriers I was mentioning, negativity bias. I don't know if you're already familiar with this, but negativity bias in action right here on this episode of Big Bang Theory. So I don't know if you're a fan of the show. On the right, you've got Sheldon, then we've got Penny and Leonard. And I just want you to watch Sheldon's negativity bias in action.
Leonard, Penny, excellent. I'd like to say I'm very happy that you're back together, and if I can figure out a way to do so and sound sincere, I will. In the meantime, I'd like to go over some proposed changes to the roommate agreement, specifically to address Penny's annoying personal habits.
Oh my God, what personal habits?
I have a list. FYI, overuse of the phrase, oh my God, is number 12.
Now, I think if we're being honest, we have probably met someone at the door and our negativity bias has driven that conversation. Maybe it's, why did you do this? Or why didn't you do this? And we hopefully are in a situation, I think most of us are in the situation where we're not in a constant state of threat, but we were given by default this negativity bias where we overwhelmingly see the negative more than we see the good. So we're always seeing that bad. But again, hopefully, most of us are not in a constant state of threat. So we have to train our brains to notice the good. And one very specific way that we can do this, especially in our learning communities, is praise. And I have the definition right here because I don't want it to be confused with vapid praise, like, great job. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when I'm saying praise, I'm pulling from the literature, talking about this is expressions of approval, admiration, conveying gratitude, really specifically, really authentically. And there is research on what the ideal praise to correction ratio is. So I'm going to do like an awkward wait here and just say, what do you think the ideal praise to correction ratio is? All right, I can't handle the suspense anymore. Here's what I was taught earning my psychology degree. I was taught 6-1. Now, you may have heard 4-1, 5-1. Honestly, anywhere in there is fine. Well, why isn't it 20-1? This is the sweet spot. 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 is the sweet spot for improvement and gratitude. We still want to be continuously improving, and we want people to be motivated to improve. Imagine if that was switch and it was 6 corrections to every one piece of authentic and specific gratitude, appreciation, it would be really hard to get motivated to change because you're inundated with all the things that are wrong. So that's a really helpful one. And if you're not familiar with the Gottmans, they are two researchers who study the longevity of healthy relationships. And this praise to correction ratio is not specific to a teacher-student relationship. It's for all relationships. And as they share, the best relationships aren't built on partners mostly telling each other what's wrong. They're built on partners mostly telling each other what's right. And so please do not screenshot this and send this to your partner, because that would mean I have failed epically at explaining this concept. But the gist of it is we want to overwhelmingly acknowledge the good in others and also provide specific, authentic feedback that's actionable. So here is the lesson that I need to learn over and over again in my life. When I am in friction with someone, I really have to take a step back and look at that ratio. And what I have learned is the best way to change someone else's behavior is to change my own behavior first. Now, that is not to say this, and so I'll just close this out with another little Big Bang Theory.
Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate. You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall.
You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want
So I have to show both sides of this because we're not trying to manipulate people. It is really in their best interest and the relationship's best interest. That's what we're looking for in that praise to correction ratio, showing our gratitude specifically through praise, because praise is a form of gratitude. And then just a little more into the science of it, a lot of times people will talk about, be grateful, then you'll be happy. And that is true, but what does happiness even mean? And I love the way that Laurie Santos summarizes it. And she kind of gives the definition from the social scientists. Happy in our life is that, like, how do we feel? What are our emotions? And then happy with our life is on like a cognitive meta level. I can step back and go, I love what I do for a living. It makes a difference. And so you kind of have those two things at play, and there's going to be times where one's higher than the other, and that's okay. But generally speaking, happiness is about overall, not 100%, but overall happy in our life, happy with our life. And in case you're not familiar with this, I do want to show you how much of our happiness is under our control. And so here are factors: biology and genetics, intentional activity, and life circumstances. So in your mind right now, which do you think goes with what? So here is that breakdown. A lot of times people are surprised that life circumstance is only 10% of it. Some people are like, I can blame mom and dad for half of it. That's true. But that's a big percentage of it that's in our control. That 40% for intentional activity is in our control. And that is why cultivating a grateful disposition is so important. So I've talked about negativity bias. I also want to talk about the hedonic treadmill. This is our getting used to things. Now, we get used to good things, which is a bit rough. That does not help with our happiness. And then, but the good side of the hedonic treadmill is we get used to bad things too. And so we all have a set point of happiness, and you can think of your happiness on a scale of 1 to 10. And maybe you're a 7, and then something really good happens and you bump up to like an 8 or a 9, but you'll return to 7 eventually. Now, again, the good part of that is that if you dip down, you'll get back up. But the incredible thing about gratitude is that it's actually going to increase your set point of happiness. And I'm going to talk more about that. Now, here is a child, a baby really, having ice cream for the very first time. Look at their reaction.
It's ice cream for her birthday party. No. Legally, let go. Let go. Let go. You got a helping grip.
So maybe you still react that way to ice cream, but most of us get used to things like the first time someone says, I love you, or the first time you hear mama and dada, if you're a parent. You know, when I got married, the priest that married my husband said, you know, imagine going to Niagara Falls for the first time, getting, you know, and now imagine like moving to Niagara Falls, you get used to it, right? So don't forget how special your spouse is, because my Niagara Falls, the first time you go, it's full of awe and wonder, but then you move there and you get used to it. Well, same thing with your spouse. They're like amazing and there's awe and wonder, and then you get used to them because you moved there. So we want to still pay attention to all that. I mentioned this earlier, the happiness chemicals that we're going to experience, the dopamine, the serotonin. Dopamine motivates, gets us to get excited to do something. Serotonin, the pleasure chemical. And so what we want to do is simple reciprocity is great. Someone drops a pin, they hand it back to me. I drop a pin, they hand it back to me. I'm like, thank you. That's like a simple reciprocity. Great. But what we want to do is move beyond just the social contract of being polite and to a grateful disposition where it's like, this is who I am, right? So I am going to just tell you that if you practice gratitude, you're going to increase your set point of happiness up to 25%, which is pretty huge. And then I want to just share, I already shared the benefits. I'm going to just take you through a quick practice. I'm actually maybe going to do that during the panel time, because I know we want to get to that and hear about that. But there's so many great practices we can do. Just one last thing about gratitude by age. We can nurture positive characteristics for our littles, those ones who are 0 to 6. Then when we're about seeing the 7 to 10-year-olds are going to start to reliably experience and express gratitude. But it's really about age 11 on, where we see the adolescents who are grateful are happier, more optimistic, and they get better grades and they have stronger social relationships. So that's pretty amazing. Now, the one way to boost your happiness chemical, of course, is gratitude. And there's an activity called mental subtraction. I think I might do it during the panel if that's okay. But I want to just make sure you know that there's like different layers to gratitude. And so we can get into some practices that are really lovely. And I am going to share with you some free resources. So I will drop this in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that right now. So hopefully you can take a look at some of the things that I have put out there. And I have so much more to share, but I just wanted to make sure we get those free resources. Now, another thing, so I put that in the chat. I'm going to go back here for a second. There is no one way to experience gratitude. There's all these different practices. So I want to share one with you in a little bit, but just know that there's more than one way to experience and express gratitude. And with that, I am going to turn it back over. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Please let me know if you need the resources again, but I'm happy to chat more about this with anyone who would like to. All right.
Wow. Thank you. You know, it's so interesting because gratitude is so simple, yet pretty complex, especially now that we know that there's some science behind it. And so thanks so much for sharing with us, Lainie. And I'm going to have Tom and Claudine, if you would turn your cameras on, and let's talk a little bit about gratitude. So thinking about what Lainie just shared with us and your own experience, Claudine and Tom, I'd like to know a little bit about how you infuse gratitude into your daily life.
Well, I say that I infuse gratitude into my daily life, but I hope that I don't have to infuse it. I hope that's what I'm all about. And as an educator, I realize my purpose is to motivate and inspire most of my students. And I wake up every morning and I look forward to waking up and seeing this plaque that I have above my bed, and it says, "Good morning." And I tell my students all the time, When I see good morning, I know it's going to be a good morning because I woke up. So I just, I try to have a smile on my face. It's a song that says, I'm happy. And I try to carry that throughout the day. So that's how I infuse gratitude. It's about having a smile on my face and mentoring to my students to be happy.
I love that. And we know that emotions are contagious. So
Yeah.
when you're happy, other people feel it, right?
Right.
So how about you, Tom? How do you infuse gratitude?
I'm a morning person. Like I said earlier, I love to get up. I love to get moving. I love to get going. Most of the time, I go to the gym in the morning, and I used to run cross country and track in high school and college. And you have a lot of time when you're on the treadmill or you're on a bike getting your workout in. And I don't know. I love the idea of training yourself to be grateful and really making it a daily practice of what am I
Mhm.
grateful for, and it could be different from day to day. And I
Mhm.
think there's value in noticing different things, just like the baby that loved ice cream. I think that's such a great visualization of what our lives could be like. If we just take the time and notice things, and so I think just getting up, working out, having a great mindset in the morning, and being inquisitive and curious about what today's going to bring and what I appreciated from the day before is one way I do that.
Yeah, I love that idea of getting curious, because being curious is definitely gets you set up for positivity, like the day is full of possibilities. Lainey, do you want to jump in on infusing gratitude into your daily life?
Yeah, I think notice is the first step, right? And so I also just want to share again, I showed that word equifinality really quickly, but I don't think I did a good job of explaining. Equifinality means like equal in the end. And that word, I love it, this $5 word, because there's so many different practices that we can all do. And Tom's a morning person. I'm not. And the scientists will tell you, like, you don't have to do it in the morning or the evening. You choose. And so one day you might do it in the morning, one day you might do it in the evening. One day you might do journaling, another day you might do a savoring walk. There are so many different practices, and if there's like one thing for at least this question, just know that there's a lot of things that we can do, and giving that choice to kids is so important. It's not that they have to do this gratitude the way that I'm saying. So there's notice, think, feel, do. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but there's a lot of different ways to notice, think, feel, and do when it comes to gratitude.
Wait, and along the lines of practices, can you talk a little bit about the three practices, the signature practices of Castle?
Absolutely. So it's a welcoming inclusion activity, engaging strategies, and an intentional close. And the idea is whenever we gather, we're going to do those things. We're going to start with a welcoming inclusion, which you did with the quick connection card, right, Marie? So that's a great welcoming inclusion activity. Engaging strategies. And we do these, there's pedagogical things that we do in the classroom to make sure that we're engaging and we're really activating the learning. And then there's an intentional close. And it used to be called an optimistic closure. And I think they changed the name because people got the wrong idea that it was like, we have to end on a happy note. And it's really about reflecting on what has happened in our learning, and then also thinking forward to what we will do in the future, next time, how we can continue to improve. And so welcoming inclusion activity, engaging strategies, and intentional close. And I've got a whole thing about it in my free resources.
And I love that, because as you talk about that, I think about Harmony's everyday practices. It's like when we do meetup activities, that we infuse a lot of that into what's happening in the classroom. So that's really cool when I can make that connection. So Tom, tell me about your students. How do you teach them to express gratitude?
I love when Lainey had the timeline of what gratitude may look like at different ages, right? So I teach fifth grade in Omaha right now, and getting them to notice or modeling what gratitude may look like, what it sounds like. Hey, I'm really, and being specific about it. Thank you so much for following directions right away. It helps our classroom be a community in which all students can be successful. Being specific, being authentic. It could just be giving knuckles and saying, hey, I really appreciate the fact that you're here every day, that you show up. I know sometimes life can be tough, but man, it's great to see you every day. Just showing them those little moments of gratitude really can translate into big moments of change. And then, when they go into middle school here in Omaha, in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, I hope we are setting the stage for that positive outlook and the resilience that's needed in the middle school, high school level. But um, getting kids to recognize when I'm being grateful, and then being grateful and using those practices with each other is really, really strong too. Hey, thanks for holding my book for me. Hey, thanks for waiting in line with me. Hey, thanks for waiting on the playground for me. And you start seeing that because when you praise them in that 6-to-1 ratio, that's that sweet spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is powerful.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of like there was a thing on social media. It's been probably several years now, but they called it the kindness boomerang, where one person did something and then and then the next person, then the next person. And I think that gratitude works similarly because it is an act of kindness, right? And it makes you feel good. And then when you feel good, you are more likely to want to pass that on. How about you, Claudine? What do you do to help your students express gratitude?
I model it. I simply model it. Thank you. I sometimes call my students Mr. and Mrs. They don't know, but I secretly have forgotten their name. But I'll say Mr. Smith or Miss Tillman, and they don't forget to say that to me. Yes, ma'am, no,
Mhm.
ma'am, and a lot of those teachers are like, "How did you get them to do that?" I model being grateful for them, and I also just simply, I tell my students, "I hope you're here tomorrow," or "Don't forget, Miss James loves you." And I think when you model those things, I think that it's hard for students not to give that back.
Right. So Claudine, what do you do if you've had a tough week at school and you're challenged to find the gratitude?
So, what you were just talking about, the boomerang theory?
Hmm.
Do you realize that teachers probably hold the boomerang? They throw it out because teachers make all other professions possible. And I
Mm.
know that having that role and being an educator, being a teacher, that it's a special role and not everybody gets the chance to have that. And so I have to remember my why. I have bad days all the time. And I'll go back to school. And it's like, Miss James, you were mad at us because we were talking when the sub was here, but you act like it's okay today. And I was like, it's a new day. It's a new day. And so again, I'm modeling to my students proper decorum, how to act. And you may be upset today, but you're gonna let it go because tomorrow when you wake up and you see that sign that says good morning, it's time to start all over again.
I love that. This is you all are just making me feel so good about being an educator and a little bit of pressure. A little bit of responsibility, but yeah, I definitely think that we all feel that. Um, um, Tom and Claudine, who inspires you to be grateful?
My mom inspired me to be grateful. The other day, my sister and I were just having like this reflection talk, and we were talking about where do we get that from? I have sisters that are nurses and work in the nursing field, and I'm in education, and we all work with children and students. And everybody always says that, where did y'all get that from? And we got it from our mom. It's a huge family. We had 6 kids, and I don't ever remember a day when I remember my mom complaining about our situation or not saying something to make us feel like, okay, I'm glad I'm here. I didn't even know it, but I got it from her and I love it.
How about you, Tom?
I think I just I notice. I love that's part of it is I notice the people around me, people like Lainie pouring into myself and other people across the globe, Claudine pouring into people across the world. I think everybody has people that they can look to and listen to and learn from. And if I have a
Mhm.
rough day at school, I really have to lean into some of these amazing humans that have been, I'm fortunate to surround myself with. And
Hmm.
Mhm.
it could be I reach out to them on social media. It could be that I phone them or I text them or I read a piece of their literature they've written, a book. But that's really what's inspired me, I guess, to continue my journey of gratefulness, where it comes from. I wish I knew. I'd tell you, but it's just important to keep practicing gratefulness, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Lainie, I wanted throw it back to you because you have a few more things to share about notice, think, do. You also wanted to do some mental subtraction if we have some time. So
Yeah, I'm going to just kind of give you all the tools to do it. And I'm putting in the chat, the hyperlinked. If you fill out this form, it'll take you to a web page on my website that has all these resources. One of them is a guided gratitude practices booklet. And it has this practice in here. It's called mental subtraction or counterfactual thinking. Thank you. Thank you very much, Amanda, for sending that out to people. And so what this practice is, which is a very different gratitude practice, but it's going to take you through the 4 components of a true deep gratitude practice. Notice, why did this thing come to me? Think, how do I, or you notice there's something that came to you, and then think about, how did this thing come to me? Why did this thing come to me? How does it make me feel? And then do, which can be either like some pro-social to pay it forward, or it could be a reciprocation. But what I want you to do is just, I'm going to take 1 minute to do this and then take more time on your own, is I want you to pick an important person who's currently in your life. Think of someone in your life, and then you would write their name down. And then I want you to mentally rewind and think about how this person came into your life. And then if you, I'm going to date myself by saying like the Sliding Doors movie with Gwyneth Paltrow, like she makes the train or she doesn't, and like her life turns out different ways based on that. So now I want you to think about like, what were the sliding door moments, the events or decision in which this person doesn't happen in your life? Like this person doesn't come to be in your life. And then we won't have time for this to do it deeply enough, but take some time when you have time to really capture how differently your life would be without this person. And then, again, we're writing as much of this as we can down when we have more time, but what are some of the joys and benefits that this relationship brings us? How would things be different if this person was missing from your life? And then remind yourself, like, this person actually is in my life. What can I do to show some gratitude? So that's the 4, and there's different practices. I just wanted to give one specific practice that actually takes you through the notice, think, feel, and do. That's Dr. Andrea Husong out of University of North Carolina. 4 components that we can teach kids and adults to have a true gratitude practice. Notice, think, feel, and do. And so check that out if you have some time.
all right, thank you. I am going to share for just another couple of minutes because I do want to point out that so much of what we're talking about today relates to harmony. We are all about developing relationships, developing healthy relationships, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, to help students learn to notice and think and do. So for those of you who are interested in learning more about harmony, you can access our curriculum for grades pre-K through grade 6. Both for classroom, out of school, and we also have Harmony at Home. As an educator, you can grow professionally through our on-demand modules at Harmony's professional learning portal, which has a wealth of resources, no matter if you are brand new to teaching or if you are a veteran teacher. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. Unit 2 is all about valuing each other. You'll find lots of great information about teaching children to value not only themselves, but value and appreciate the other people and the world around them. So you can get that information either by scanning the QR code that I have here on the slide, or you can go to mylearningportal.org and check that out. And I think that we are just about out of time. So I do want to give our panelists an opportunity. Are there any final thoughts about what is most important to keep in mind whenever we are developing an attitude of gratitude throughout the school year?
I'll just say small moves make a big difference. So If you haven't had a chance yet today, text someone something you appreciate about them, send an email, phone call. You don't need the pretty stationery. Just do it.
And I see on my I see that I am sharing my wrong screen. That happens sometimes. All right, so I am going to stop sharing actually, and then let's see if I can go. Let's see if we can reshare. I am looking for this screen. All right. All right. So, well, we are out of time for today. I do want to thank our panelists for their time. We are very grateful for all of you. We are grateful for those of you who took time out of your day to join us as well. We're going to be taking a short break for the holiday season. We will return in January with another engaging webinar. And this one will be on reimagining educator well-being. So stay tuned. The details will be forthcoming. Dr. Nick Yoder and Lorena Martinez will be joining us for that. So thank you all again for being part of our webinar today. Be on the lookout for a survey that's going to be popping up onto your screen. We appreciate you sharing feedback so we can continue to improve our webinar series. And again, thank you all and have a wonderful holiday season. Like I said, we are very grateful for each of you. Enjoy time with your family and friends, and come back and see us again in January.